All right, welcome to episode 46 of the At Bat Podcast presented by War Media, where we give you our thoughts on the latest Chicago baseball news, as well as take a trip around the league. I am Saul Rodriguez, along with Miles Porter and Gabe Wilkins. How we doing today, guys? How we doing, Miles?
Hey, doing good, doing good. Always love doing these. It's been quite the season so far. Um, this is great. This is great. It's warm too, so that's always nice.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And of course, you got Gabe over here. You can see here on the At Bat Podcast, but also on Open Run Podcast, where things are getting hot. We were just talking NBA off air. So, Miles, Gabe, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing excellent, man. Like Mal said, the weather's beautiful out. Definitely got to enjoy that while you can, until the
Yep.
upcoming week comes about. But I've been doing good, trying to balance, my sports watching with Major League Baseball and the NBA with the playoffs approaching. But I've been impressed with what I've seen on the diamond thus far. You got guys like Jordan Walker out here on
Oh
a
yeah.
12-game hitting streak, looking like a pro, in his first couple of weeks early and like nothing's phasing him. So I'm excited to see him in St. Louis to see how far he can continue to take it and keep it going for a Cardinals team that desperately needs everything he can provide them with and more right now, getting out to a slow start in the Central.
No, you're right. And dude, he's huge. I never even paid attention to I was watching the game the other day, the Rockies Cardinals, and I was like, this guy's huge in the box. So yeah, no, he's hitting well. Surprisingly, the Cardinals are not playing well, but that's not gonna last long in my opinion. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, no, yeah, baseball's it's been hot in the streets, man. It's been so much to talk about, whether it be the pitch clock, whether it be,
Oh goodness.
comebacks, injuries, extensions, especially here in Chicago. So we'll get into it. On the north side of Chicago, the Cubs 6-5. They're coming off a series win against the Mariners, a series win against the Rangers. So all is well for now. But of course, they had that historic comeback against the Mariners this week. Those just a couple highlights. Hayden Wesneski, unfortunately, that was a low light because he hasn't been pitching well. And I kind of want to ask Miles a little bit about that too in a minute. But Marcus Stroman has been pitching well all season despite the loss. We're recording this on Wednesday, and he took a loss. But no run support. That's not going to help either. So, and then we'll talk a little bit about Ian Happ's extension as well, and the guys like Dansby Swanson left the game on Tuesday, didn't play on Wednesday, and then Seiya Suzuki should be coming back this weekend. So, Miles, what out of all those things, what is one thing that stood out over the last week for the Cubs in your perspective, and even from last week, since obviously you didn't get to say your piece?
Yeah, no, I really liked how this group is starting to come together. It does kind of feel like a continuation of last year's second half momentum, and kind of just building off of that as well. So it's been really cool to see. Dansby's off to a great start. Marcus Stroman has been pitching great. Even though he didn't have a lot of run support today, he's just pitching with a lot of confidence. I think that's incredible. Trey Mancini has been very productive. Patrick Wisdom has been very confident at the plate for the most part, hitting well up to this point. So it's a lot of good things to take away. Um, it's still the beginning of the season. So one of my big things that I always try to tell people is like, it is great to get off to a good start, but at the same time, this season is a marathon and not a sprint. It's a very long season. It's got to take it one day at a time. It does feel good to look into this right now and feel good about this, especially last night. Amazing weather and a hell of a comeback. Um, all great things to take away from and feel good about as a Cubs fan. But also, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. There's going to be times during this year where we're going to feel great. There's going to be times this year we're going to be pissed off at every player. So, I never try to look too deep into April because everyone's still kind of getting their feet wet. But for the most part, I'm very impressed with this team offensively. If you look at a lot of the batting averages across the board, a lot of guys are hitting very well right now, and maybe the new rules have something to do with that. But we'll take it too. A hit's a hit at the end of the day. So I'm happy. I'm very happy with what I'm seeing, and just I look forward to where this team is going to be by the half, and what we're going to do to build off of momentum, or what do we still need to do in order to compete next year. And I'm very happy that Ian Happ has been extended 3 years because listen, man, why wouldn't we? So good news all around. Feeling good about the boys right now.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, it's many good like a bunch of things have been happening on the north side that have been positive. with the wins and Dansby Swanson up to a great start. He's continuing to do that. Hopefully he's all right. I know they said it was just they think it's cramping, so he should be back for this weekend, hopefully. But yeah, no, it's been a lot of good stuff, and just seeing like that comeback win. I mean, you know how you're saying like we're gonna be pissed.
Those lights at Wrigley are beautiful.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh my god,
they got the W in there.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's finally.
Mr. Ricketts, you made a good purchase. Good job.
They're like, hey, that's why they're like,
Good
hey,
job.
look, they're like, oh, they found out about the lights. All right, now we got to pay Happ. That's what they said. Probably they're like, oh. They're like, oh crap, now we got to pay up. All right, sorry.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it's pretty cool, man. It's been a minute since I think the Yankees started doing that, and now like the whole league's been following suit. So that's pretty cool that they did that. But Gabe, want to get your take, just anything that you've heard from in general from the Cubs world that has stood out to you from the last week, whether it be Marcus Stroman pitching well, or Hayden Wesneski, just what's your take so far from the last week?
Well, I actually took some time following the White Sox win on Monday afternoon when I had some downtime on Monday evening to catch the back nine of the game that went down between them and Seattle in the series opener. And it looks like David Ross is really doing a good job of instilling a level of culture and continuity. And then you add that with the influx of veterans who have been there, done that, such as Bellinger, Mancini. Even though some of those guys have had their moments where they've looked bad at the plate, you see Bellinger coming through big time with a dinger of his own in a game that was recent, where they won and whatnot. I like what I'm seeing from them. They showing a lot of fight. And that's something you want to see from a young team who, even though I don't know what direction they're still trying to go, it looks like they're on the up and up and they're competing. And it's a lot of games that you can make an argument that they really shouldn't be winning, but they're finding ways to win them. And that's a positive in April. And you would take those wins any way you could get them, especially early in the season. I know, like Miles said, it's definitely a marathon and with a 162 game season and not a sprint. But I've really been impressed with what I've seen. And even though Swanson missed action on Wednesday due to cramping up and whatnot, muscle tightness, he seems like he'll be fine and good to go. He's also been dealing with some things on a personal front as well, such as his wife getting hurt when she thought she was going to be a part of the USA soccer team for the World Cup. So I think once he's able to get right and help her with that, I'm pretty sure he'd be back out there by the end of this weekend for sure.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Man, and she's a beast too. Mallory Swanson now, right? She's a beast. So it's and the U.S. is stacked. So fortunately they got some depth, but they could have used her, man. And it's unfortunate that end. But yeah, even he said that it was a long day for him on I believe he said on Tuesday. He was up since 4 a.m. at the hospital for her surgery and all that. So they were saying that maybe that had something to do. He had a long day. So. But yeah, hopefully he gets out there this weekend. What's also unfortunate is that, man, with Swanson, he's the type of guy who wants to play 162 every year. So like he played 162 last year. So, it's unfortunate with his cramping that he wasn't able to play on Wednesday. So he's not going to hit that this year. But anyways, in general, though, on some of the positives, that comeback on Tuesday was amazing. And Miles, as you were saying that, we're gonna be pissed sometimes or whatever. That was a moment where I was like, here we go, we're gonna get blown out, game's over, but they were able to come. Man, Nelson Velasquez, bro, that guy has got pop. That guy, I feel like he's not talked about enough. He played in the WBC with the DR, hit a couple bombs in the WBC, and he held his own with with that stacked lineup that unfortunately didn't go anywhere, but they were able, he was able to show off. But what did you see from that comeback, Miles, that like really stood out to you? Besides, like, I mean, everybody says. Even Jed, it's funny because Jed Hoyer had said before, I believe it was before the game or earlier this week, that it's comeback victories say a lot about a team, especially like special teams, right? When they win, not saying this team's gonna win the World Series, but a team that plays into October, there's something about comeback wins that stand out to you. What stood out to you in that comeback victory on Tuesday?
Yeah, there's so much about last night that reminded me a lot of that 2016 team, just in terms of being patient, letting the game come to them. Now, at the same time, as I'm watching those Seattle pitchers on the mound, they are leaving everything over the plate. And then they're getting a little bit uncomfortable. Then they start walking guys. It's really, to what Gabe was said, this is a smart team. You got veterans on this team who are talking to the young guys, letting them know how to go about their at bats. You know, I think the Cubs took advantage of a Mariners ball club that I think was a little bit taken back at the early lead they jumped out on. And the Cubs hitters just stayed ready. Also with the beautiful weather and a beautiful night game at Wrigley Field, nothing beats that. So I just think the Cubs hitters were very ready. You know, they didn't miss a lot of the mistakes that those pitchers were making. So I think that's one of the important things that I took away from last night. Even when they took the lead, they continued to build off of that throughout the rest of the game. You know, last night was just a hitter's night, and the Cubs took advantage of that. So great job on both ends. And you know, really, you can't even. There was a lot of pitches being left over the plate. But at the same time, I think last night was just the night for the hitters, and that happened at Wrigley Field. Today was the complete opposite. So,
go figure.
Yeah, you just got to play to Wrigley, and same thing with other ball clubs in the MLB. So, a lot that I liked last night. It really reminded me of like a cool 2016 ball club kind of feel. Just that momentum that they're playing with was just incredible.
And yeah, no, and then just. From other things that I paid attention to this week that I wanted to talk about. And Gabe, have you seen Hayden Wesneski pitch by any chance yet this season or no?
I haven't, but I've heard some stories about, he's been kind of up and down, and it hasn't really been looking good compared to what he showed near the tail end of the 2022 season.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where it is a disappointing start to the season so far, but he's young, so I'm not too overly worried. But at least the velocity is there, and he's just kind of missing his spots. But Miles, what do you see from your end? Is it just the location? Is it just his pitch selection? What is going on right now with Wesneski?
I think it's a lot of location. I think his stuff is very nasty. A lot of his stuff has a lot of movement. I think right now, kind of going into his second year and being, already having a rotation role. I think there's certain aspects of it that kind of. I think it's kind of a sophomore slump at the moment, and like I said at the beginning of this episode, it's hard. It's hard for me to look at Hayden Wesneski right now and think to myself, "Oh no, here we go." Mm-hmm. Easily, he could turn this around. He could turn this around in May, and I think it's just a matter of, being comfortable up there on the mound and knowing how to utilize his breaking pitches. We know he has velocity. That's not an issue, but I really want him to utilize the slider more, kind of break out of the zone a little bit. I think that's one of the things with what I've seen from Wesneski is that he's been a little bit predictable on the mound. When he misses bad.
Yeah, and I've noticed with him too is that when he's on and he's nasty, he's challenging guys and he's throwing the breaking ball in there, it looks like a cookie, but to the hitter it doesn't look like a cookie. So hopefully he gets going sooner rather than later. But yeah, it's one of those things where young season, young pitcher, not necessarily worried about that. But we'll talk about the big news now that everyone's talking about is that on Wednesday, Ian Happ signed a extension of 3 years. $61 million. And, it's the contract starts in 2024. So yeah, I want to get your guys' take on what that means. And hey, look, finally this year, Cubs are extending their guys now, and Miles, I know you got something to, I know Miles got something to say about this, but I will say with the type of player that Ian Happ is, the versatility that he brings, the switch hitting, the Gold Glove, the accolades. He's now an all-star. Because I kept seeing some people saying, "Oh, it's too much money for this guy," blah blah blah, this and that or whatever. But it's he's already established himself. He's been an all-star, and like I said, he's got the hardware to show, obviously that's going to count for some money there, right? So just same goes for Bellinger, right? I think if he didn't win the MVP or he wasn't an all-star and all that, then he wouldn't have gotten 18 mil this year, right? It's money talks. So kind of get your opinion, Miles. What did you think off the bat when you see this, and what this means for the future of the Cubs?
It took them long enough to finally realize that if they have a good player, just keep him around. I know, I understand the ideas of building up, a farm system. Okay, all right, we're good. We're good, Jed. Thank you. We're okay. Like, stop. You know what I mean? We have to keep some of these guys who are performing well for us and make them feel like it's worth keeping them. I don't know what the hell has been going on in certain scenarios, but the fact that it finally took them till this year to realize, let's keep Happ around. Thank you. That's a guy you want to keep around, especially if this team is on an upwards trend like they were last year in the second half. If it's working, don't dismantle it if you don't have to. So I'm really happy that Ian's sticking around. I think the contract is fine. I think that, what is it, $61 million for 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
I think that is fair. I think that's totally fine. I think most importantly, he's staying a Cub for another 3 years, and I think that can bring Cubs fans a lot of hope for the future, because it has been a little bit rough for the North Siders, seeing a lot of familiar faces go, but not just go, but kind of going, and it feels unfair that they're gone. So it feels good to finally see a player that we've had for some time now, and kind of get the treatment that he deserves to stick around. So that feels really good. I just hope that they take note going forward that, I still do not believe that Wilson Contreras should be on the Cardinals. I still don't believe it. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, Tucker Barnhart, Yan Gomes, God bless you. Incredible behind the plate. I think they're very good with those pitchers, but at the same time, that's another player that we could have kept around. I think if you keep Wilson Contreras on this ball club right here, Saul, are you kidding me, bro? Wilson behind the dish. You got Dansby and short Nico. Oh my gosh. Didn't happen though. That's okay.
Well, what are you talking about? Tucker Barnhart, he's a Gold Glover.
Yes, he is. Yes. I just all I'm saying is that
I got you. No, you're right. I mean, look, I'll tell you one thing. I use the Cubs and MLB The Show, because I don't like using like it's one, because my buddy's always giving me shit. Like, I'll be like, oh, I use this team or that team. Like, bro, why don't you use a good team? And look, with the Cubs, I like it because when I beat teams, like I'm an underdog. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
yeah.
It feels a little better when I win.
I got the show paused right now.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, see. So I like using underdogs. So yeah. That's why. But I gotta tell you, when Tucker Barnhart's up there and like Eric Hosmer and like and Gabe already knows I've been hating too much on Hosmer. He had a good week in the last week, so I'll give him credit. Credit is due there.
He's amazing offensively as well.
Yeah, that's true. That pick that he had, that like little like smooth. Oh, that was smooth as butter. Yeah. So that was good. But Gabe, I want to get your take. So obviously, we've been talking about how good this is, for the Cubs and what this means for the future. And, Ian Happ as well, not only is he a good player in general, but he's also a great marketing asset, to be honest, right? Because he's with John Boy. He's got a podcast going. He's got all this whole thing going. So he's got a lot of sponsorships there and all that. But Gabe, from the other side of town, what do you think of Ian Happ in general and what this means for the Cubs?
I think it means a lot to your fan base anytime you can retain a player who is a homegrown talent. Think about the homegrown talent that you guys have given up, not just over the last couple of years with Javier Baez, Chris Bryant, and, let Wilson Contreras walk to the arch rival. You have a guy that you retained in Ian Happ who can play multiple positions on the field, has a solid bat, and it's a reasonable contract. 3 years, $61 million, that ain't breaking the bank. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's a real good thing to see if you're a Cubs fan, especially when you already have a solid farm system. And oh, by the way, not to remind you, as a White Sox fan, you happen to trade your top two prospects away in the middle of your championship window in Dylan Cease and Eloy Jimenez. And as a result, you got Jose Quintana. And that didn't really work out well for you, especially when you look at what Dylan Cease has been able to do on the South Side as of late. So anytime, like I said, you could retain a homegrown talent when you've lost so much over the years, even in spite of your influx of young, talented pieces that are coming up in the system, that's a win. And they needed it. He's a guy that provides them with versatility in the lineup. He has a great bat. Professional. I don't see what's wrong with this move. Like I said, they didn't have to break the bank for him. It's not an over-the-top deal. It's just enough. And I think it will make Cubs fans happy, especially when you look at the state of their franchise and where they're currently at right now as they seek to move up with David Ross.
Yeah, no, 100%. You're right. And the thing is, it with the Ian Happ move, you almost it's a bigger step also as well to saying, hey, we're trying to win here, because a lot of people have been confused, right? And where the Cubs are at, what they're trying to do, right? And it gives a little bit more of like a peek of what they're trying to do and try to build a winner. So, they still got a long way to go, that's for sure. But that's another step in the right direction. And hopefully we get guys like Seiya Suzuki back to kind of continue this positive momentum, because this weekend they got a big week coming up. They got to face the Dodgers for 4 in LA, and they got to play Oakland. They got to play the A's in Oakland. So I mean, they're not a great team, but when you go over there, especially from being from the Midwest, I'm sure. And Gabe, I know I always hear from my friends that are Sox fans. They don't love to go to Oakland. Not only because it's not visually appealing, but also just because sometimes West Coast games, I mean, I know when it comes to like the Giants, Cubs always go to San Francisco to lose a series, so it's just I think it's just the way it is. But yeah, so they got that coming up. Like I said, they're 6-5, so hopefully they can keep something positive going into this week. But we'll shift over to the White Sox now, who will come in. We're recording this on a Wednesday. They're 5-8. They lost a couple series. They lost one of the Pirates, and they lost one of the Twins. Now, and we talked about it too, Gabe. Remember last week I was like, man, just watch like the Pirates, these dudes go off. And yeah, Brian Reynolds was doing work. They had Johan Oviedo going off too, who in that finale. So, but what I do want to get talking to before we get into some other stuff, and Gabe really have been wanting to hear your opinion on this, but that play with O'Neal Cruz, that everybody's been talking about, that he slid into home plate. I've watched that maybe 30 times already when they put it right. And I still don't know what he was trying to do. Like, it makes no sense. The scenario, the score of the game. It sounded like it was like the 9th inning and he was doing this. Like, it makes no sense to me. But I want you to walk me through that play in the sense of what you were thinking as that was unfolding.
I just was trying to figure out what was O'Neal Cruz thinking with what I guess you would call a slide, but it looked more like a tuck and roll.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a dangerous play. And it's unfortunate that he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to miss the next 4 months due to fracturing his ankle on that slide to the plate. He could have easily hurt Sebi Zavala.
Mm-hmm.
He could have easily hurt him. And I think Sebi was basically just trying to direct a message to him or sort of question him, well, what are you doing sliding the plate like that? And I think he was trying to relay a message as well to Las Diaz to watch that, because we've seen guys, especially catchers, lose seasons due to collisions at the plate. One being Buster Posey 1 year following their World Series run in 2010 with the Giants. So I didn't understand it. I didn't understand. I don't want to call it Bush League. I don't think it was his intent to hurt him, but it riled up some guys unnecessarily. And as a result, I mean, hell, Joe Kelly now is on the 15-day IL because he strained his groin, just trying to go out there and defend teammates. So it's bad on both fronts, if you ask me. But I think Sebi and Michael Kopech tried to handle it as best as they possibly could.
Yeah, Kopech was trying to find somebody. At one point when the bench is cleared, I saw him and I was like, man, somebody's really trying to go up against Kopech. All right, whatever, see what happens. But yeah, trust me, as much you could ask me and Miles about benches clearing with the Pirates, who plenty of those Sean Rodriguez days. No relation. I gotta let that gotta let you know right off the bat, no relation there. But yeah, that was crazy. Miles, you see the play up with O'Neal Cruz? What did you think about that? And it's just, it's baffling to me what was happening there. And yeah, it is unfortunate too. I will say that as much as I don't know what he was doing there, it does suck that he is going to be out now, because he's one of those guys that you love to watch. One of the main reasons to watch the Pirates, and now he's going to be out for a while. But yeah, what did you think about the situation?
Very unfortunate for a very young, talented, strong beast of a kid.
Mm-hmm.
We've all seen the highlights. We've all seen him whip one across the infield. We've seen him one-handed out of PNC Park. It's unfortunate. It's interesting with the MLB, and I think with a lot of professionals, there's a lot of fundamentals that are gone over in spring training. There's a lot of you see the sliding drills sometimes that they do. You see like a lot of these teams are going over the fundamentals, and one of the things that we're taught is to make up your mind as to how you're going to slide. It seemed like it was like this weird. He didn't know if he can just kind of coast in there, and then do I just slide feet first? Like it seemed like there was an unsureness there, but the decision was way too late. You got to know 100%, even sometimes before you even round third. Am I going to go head first or am I going to go feet first? You have to know that way before ahead of time, and there's injury, but also that impacts the play. You got to know how you're going to try to get in there. So it's really unfortunate for him. I understand Sebi's frustration. I'm sure that was kind of like a what the F to him. I don't think there was any intent there with Cruz. I just think that it was not foolish, but it was the wrong way to try to slide into home. For many different reasons. Injuring the catcher, just trying to get not a good idea. I think he should have gone head first in there, or if he didn't know how to make up your mind, I don't know, maybe try to get a rundown. That's not the way to do it. So I think that there is a lot to take away from this. I mean, it's unfortunate that you got Joe Kelly injured now, but I really like the dog in this White Sox team. So they just got to keep playing. These things happen. These things happen. It's unfortunate, but hopefully O'Neal Cruz, who's very young, hopefully he learns from this going forward. Because the game of baseball is way better with players like him playing.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, that guy's a beast, and hopefully he recovers fast. But yeah, lesson learned, I'm sure, after that happening. But kind of moving on now to their next series was against the Twins. It was their first look at the Twins. And Gabe, what did you think about that series? I mean, obviously the Sox weren't able to come out with the series win. They obviously things could have gone a different way. Obviously that it was the second game, right, where Robert hit that game tying home run in the 9th, and then the Michael A. Taylor had that bunt in the 10th that was thrown away. Who was on the mound for that one? Oh, okay.
On the mound was Jesse Schultens.
Oh, okay.
Was the one that misfielded the ball at third.
Yeah.
And overthrew, and it ended up hitting Taylor's helmet, and it ricocheted, in around foul territory. And Castro was already going in the third. He just cruised into home. I mean, that was the game that got away. That was the game that got away. And in my opinion, it was a momentum killer. Here the White Sox had a chance to steal a game in which Lance Lynn left a couple of pitches up a little bit and got cooked for it as a result. Granted, he threw a nice curveball to Byron Buxton. He just reached out real low and put some muscle on it and took a yard. It just was unfortunate that a man was on base to tie the game. A game in which, the White Sox attacked Pablo Lopez early and scored 2 runs, but ended up tying it up. And then before you know it, it's a 3-2 game just off of 2 home runs. But I was impressed with the way that Lance Lynn pitched in that game moving forward and found his rhythm, which is a positive sign. And I was also impressed with Luis Robert for being able to muscle a pitch out on Duran, who's one of the best pitchers and relievers in baseball. We know he has a splitter that could go anywhere between 101 to 103. And then that fastball is electric. So I don't know what he was thinking to throw an all-speed pitch to a guy like Luis and leaving it up, might I add, which he did. And Luis was just able to muscle it out the park and give him a chance. But man, that loss really hurt. And I think today, to get a performance the way that you did out of Giolito, only for it to be taken away or whatever, or ended in a loss due to the inability of Gavin Sheets, rather, to fill this position. And I'm not trying to panic over the White Sox, but the White Sox haven't won a series yet in the month of April. And the road's getting tougher. You got the Orioles coming up for 3 at home. You have the Phillies coming up for 3 in your own building. And that's a team that struggled. And they're going to be seeking to do all they can to get back atop of the NL East, a ever tough NL East. And then, mind you, you got the Rays on the road and you got the Jays as well. And then you got to play 3 more games with the Rays to close out the month at home. So, man, they got to get it together quick. I think talent-wise, they have all the potential, as we know. But with Tim Anderson out for the next couple of weeks, Yoan Moncada's status being in the air for this weekend, whether or not he's going to be able to play with his back injury. Eloy Jimenez being set to return, but he's been out for the last week or week and a half. So, man, like they're going to have to get it together quick. And fortunately, yes, they play in the AL Central. It's not the most dominant division, but this team has to find a way to get on the same page. One day it's the offense. The next day it's the defense. The next day it's the pitching. Pitching showed up. The defense in this series did not. If I'm not mistaken, they had 4 errors in 3 games. That's not going to cut it, especially in games that are coming down or decided by 1 run or less. These are the games that they're going to have to learn how to win if they want to take that next step atop of the American League.
Yeah, and not only that, but man, Gabe, I don't know how you guys do it too with the injuries. I mean, it's like every day there's something, and it's just whether it be Eloy or whether it be Tim Anderson, who's now out too as well. It's so frustrating, and because you want to see the team all play at the same time, you want to see them play together, and it's just like injury after injury. It's crazy to me, but either way, Miles, what have you seen or what have you heard from the White Sox in the last week that has stood out to you? What is something that you want to see them do? Because I know like Gabe said, it's not going to get any easier. Just like I feel like a lot of people's schedules, a lot of teams' schedules are pretty tough in April, but I think it's just a product of the new schedule. But what have you seen from the Sox so far?
Yeah, hopefully this ball club is able to come together, and I mean that just in terms of health, staying healthy throughout the year. I'm really rooting for this team. I think it was a great move in getting Pedro Grifol. There are things that I really do like about what this team is doing right now. Luis Robert is absolutely tearing it up at the moment.
Yes, he is.
It's little things like that I'm like, great, and defensively, you look at this team and you would expect them to be very, very sharp, one of the sharper teams in the league. So I'm curious as to where that's we're kind of that where that's coming from in terms of not making plays in certain moments. But offensively, I think this team is much better than what they've been showing. Much better than what they've been showing. So, and I still think that there's little hints here and there. And Luis Robert being a one-off in my opinion. This is a White Sox team that has to stay healthy. They got to stay healthy, and I think it's very powerful news. And Hendricks being able to come back soon, I think that is absolutely incredible. For me, that touches my heart with my mother being a breast cancer survivor twice, and I just want to see this team do good. But I think the main thing about it is to stay healthy, and just do your best to dominate a division that is kind of up for grabs still.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And to add to your point, Miles, the offense, for the most part, has been solid. Prior to them getting shut out against the Pirates in the series finale, 1-0, they scored 33 runs over 4 games. The problem is that your pitchers were giving up home runs left and right. Like, it's bad when you have a series opener against Rich Hill. You tee off for 7 runs against him. You score 9 on the day, but you lose 13-9. That just can't happen because Lucas Giolito's not on his A game. And your bullpen, Diekman, guys being up and down, inconsistent. This team has to find a way to get on the same page. And then when your pitching is up to par, such as it was in the series finale with Michael Kopech, who bounced back very well, might I add, following his opening day debacle against the Giants, where he was tipping pitches. You can't get runners in when you got them in scoring position. And that's very important, man. And this team just got to find a way to get on the same page. I understand guys are hurt, but you got to have a next man up mentality. I question the depth of this team on a lot of levels, but at the same time, with hopefully Eloy and Yohan coming back this weekend against Baltimore, they're able to send a message because you can't be getting out slugged in your own building. And at some point, the power's got to come. But I've been impressed with Luis Robert. And Luis Robert right now, in my opinion, is looking like an MVP candidate. The only question is whether or not he could get some support from the likes of guys like Benintendi, Elvis Andrews, and even guys like Hanzo Alberto, if he's going to be in the lineup for the foreseeable future going forward.
Yeah, and Luis Roberts, he's hitting exactly like you expect him to when he's healthy. You know, he's doing it all, defensively, offensively, and this type of player he can be. And you just hope he can stay healthy and get the protection as well from all around. And and it's like you see guys, you see how they play when guys like Yohan Moncada is, out there and being healthy and playing well. It has a huge impact. And obviously, not only that too, but the obvious same thing with the impact that Tim Anderson has when he's on the field. Like, he's basically the captain of the team, right? So it's like you want him out there, so hopefully he can get a speedy recovery as well there. But and as you said, Gabe, looking ahead, they got Baltimore and that's not your average Baltimore team out there. They got Adley Rutschman out there and Gunnar Henderson now, and they got young dudes that are balling, and it's going to be interesting to see how they match up against them. And Philly, as you said, disappointing start, but they can match with anybody with Schwarber. And then before we came on, Miles also said, Bryce Harper's getting ready to come back and play first base. I mean, that dude's an alien. That's crazy to me. And so it's going to be a wild ride in April, but I think April, as I said about the Cubs last time, that you're gonna kind of see you're gonna learn what team they are after April. Same thing can be said about the White Sox, and so we'll see what happens there, but it's gonna be very, very fascinating to see what happens there. And one more thing, before we wrap up, there's a couple things I did wanted to touch on, and that's Tampa Bay Rays, man, they won again they won again today, so they're 12-0. But a lot of people I want to get you guys' opinion, because a lot of people have been saying, hey, they're not playing, teams winning records and have playing talented teams. But what's your take?
Boy.
I mean, I think the way I see it, it's hard to be 12-0. That's all right. So you got to give them credit where credit's due at this point. But Miles, what do you think overall about the Tampa Bay Rays right now?
There's something in that water that they're drinking, because this team, they just find a way to just it's incredible. It's amazing. There's no one should take anything away from this ball club. I think that they are so fun to watch. Randy Arozarena, that is one of my favorite celebrations that I have ever seen. The fact that this man, the fact that he catches a ball in the outfield and then he'll just pose and do it, and that's like the win. So that's awesome. This is so cool for baseball, and I think this is just like such a cool just ride that they're having. And we just started the season. They're like, we won't lose. They're just like, the Yankees, whatever. The Orioles, we won't lose. We'll just start like that, and then we'll just kind of set the tone. That's awesome. That is awesome. I love how that story kind of develops the AL East, and how the Yankees are gonna. It's just, I think it's awesome, and this team is very, very fun to watch. I also like it because I think Wander Franco also gets a little bit more credit as well. This is awesome. This is great. I still, as much as I want to say I hope they get a new stadium, they continue to play well. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But this Rays team is so awesome. So I'm curious to see how much they ride this out and how many parlays people got on that. So watch that for those who are watching. Be careful out there.
Yeah, no, and look, you mentioned Wander Franco, dude. That dude is killing it right now. And Gabe mentioned MVP candidates. There's another dude too right now that's playing like MVP candidate, Wander Franco. And it's good to see, because obviously his season cut short last year because of an injury. You want to see him play a full season, now, because that changes the whole, dynamic with the Rays. And, Arozarena brought what he was doing in the WBC over to the season. Same with Paredes, who was also on Team Mexico. So, they're doing work from all angles, and not only that, but the pitching as well. And also, I was thinking too, they let go. They let guy. Sorry, excuse me. They let guys go like like Yarborough and stuff like that. But it has not affected them. Not that Yarborough was their ace or anything, but because they got McClanahan, they got Springs doing work, but they've been able to get contributions from everywhere. But Gabe, what's your take on the Rays right now? Is this something that can they could keep you think is going to keep going, or is it something where they're going to cool down sooner rather than later?
Well, I mean, I don't think it takes a betting man to know that they won't finish the season 162-0. But at the same time, I've been impressed with what I've seen from them. But it's to be expected, especially when you come off the year in which they came off of, when they had so many chances to take advantage in that wild card series against Cleveland and just couldn't cash in on runners in scoring position. And they need every win because, remind you, they playing in the AL East. And they only, in spite of their 12-0 start, they're only 4 games up on the Yankees and only 4.5 games up on the Blue Jays, who will be on their heels from start to finish. So they need every single win. And I do know that their schedule has kind of been lackluster, but you can only play the teams that you line up in front of each and every day. And they've done that, and they've done excellent. And I'm excited to see how they can build off of this. Tampa Bay has always had some damn good teams. They have a great front office that scouts well and they draft well. And that's how they're able to make these runs. But the thing that I'm more interested to see going forward with Tampa Bay is, can they finally find a way to seal the deal? This is a team that got to the World Series a few years ago, had a chance to win the World Series. But due to some decisions, personnel-wise, made here and there, that I think a lot of us know, especially involving a former Ray and Blake Snell, they fell short against the Dodgers. So I'm just more eager to see how far they can take it, especially when you consider that they've been in the World Series winning the last 3 years. They won the American League East Division in that time span a couple of times as well. I want to see if they could build off of this and make a deep playoff run that culminates in a championship for a franchise that desperately needs it. I've also been impressed with Diaz too. Prior to him going down with injury, he the third baseman, he was really raking for them and had some big time hits for them in games as well. So from top to bottom, they've been a well-oiled machine thus far, and they're not showing any signs of slowing down. But to finish undefeated, nah, that's not gonna happen.
What was 161-1? Maybe.
Hey, if they could do that, man, more power to them.
No, yeah, no.
161-1.
Hey, no, and Gabe, you're right about the Jays and what's funny is that their next series is against the Jays, so it's gonna be like the first big test of the season to see them take on the Jays and kind of silence some haters, because if they are able to go in there and hell keep it going, who knows how long this is gonna go. But that's gonna say a lot. So yeah, they're fun to watch. But the last thing I wanted to talk about though with you guys is something that broke today too as well, is that Salt Lake City is in the running now for one of the teams that for expansion, and that Manfred has said that they do want 32 teams. Yeah, no, I know. And the reason why I think this is so was such a fascinating thing to talk about was because me and Gabe had mentioned off air with Salt Lake City and how it wasn't a big hit in the NBA All-Star game with the festivities. And actually, I did see a couple of things actually, Gabe, too, that and I'll let you speak in a sec, but I did see that somebody said that the reason why they want to, because I was like, Salt Lake City, what? Like, worry about Vegas first, or even Nashville at that point, right? But apparently, Salt Lake City is I believe it said it's as big or bigger of a TV market than San Diego, Kansas City, and Milwaukee. Which to be honest, I swear I did not know that. That's wild. So I guess it kind of speaks a little bit more to why they want it there. But yeah, anyways, what Gabe, what did you think? I'll start with you. What do you think about Salt Lake City? And then also the other teams that are still vying for it. Cause I mean, I know Portland's still vying for it. Nashville is still vying for it. And apparently I think also something else I heard out, I can't confirm this. Like, I forgot where I heard it, but they said they're waiting to see what Tampa Bay does and Oakland do as well to do the rest of the expansions. Yeah, I wonder what that means, but we'll see. But Gabe, what did you think so far when you heard about the Salt Lake City?
I can't say that I'm fully surprised by it, especially when I see who's involved.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the widow of Larry Miller, Gail Miller, whose husband and their family owned the Jazz for many years in the NBA, fought to keep the Jazz in Salt Lake City for over the last 4+ decades, which they've done. And they turned that over to Ryan Smith, who's now the owner of that organization as we speak. But I can't knock it necessarily. Like you said, it is a good media market. And I've been well aware of that. And they are trying to expand baseball in the West Coast. As you said, other markets such as Portland is inquired about it. I wouldn't mind seeing a baseball team in Portland, to be honest with you. I mean, Nike's headquartered there. The Trailblazers have had great success there. It's an upstart area, city that's booming economically, but it's odd to me. Now, when you bring up Oakland and Tampa Bay, I know why you're doing that, because I think most people know that at some point, sooner rather than later, the A's are moving. It's just a matter of where. And I think if I was a betting man, they're probably going to move to Las Vegas. But there's room for expansion in baseball, and I'm excited to see which markets they tap into. I believe Vegas automatically be one, but it seems like it's about to be a bidding war based off of this news today. And if I was a betting man, I would say the bidding war is between 3 cities: Salt Lake City, Portland, and Nashville for one of these expansion franchises. Or maybe 2 out of the 3 end up getting one, and one gets left out in the cold.
Yeah, what do you think, Miles, on this whole thing?
Yeah, I agree with everything Gabe just said. I think the writing is on the wall. I think it's pretty clear what the athletics management is doing right now. You just gotta go to a game and watch. That's it. You just gotta see. Which I also feel bad for the players as well, because it's not like these guys are trying to go out there and just blow it and start the season 2-8 or 2-9 or however they've started their year. These guys are competing. So I think it is important to, put these guys in the best position possible. So I agree. I think it comes down to those 3 cities. I think we know where this is heading. I don't know. I know Rod Manfred talks about wanting to add 2 more teams. So that's interesting. I'm hoping that he moves the 2 obvious teams first before adding a couple of ball clubs to the MLB. So, that's where I'm at with it. I really want to see, the Athletics, play in a stadium in which they're gonna get the love they deserve. So, I think the baseball's gonna be, it's already looking different every single year. Every single year we got something different. So, I can't say I'm surprised. I cannot say I'm surprised. So, let's see what happens. We all know that the Athletics are not going to stick around for anymore, and with the Rays, much different of a scenario, and because they're winning and they continue to win no matter what the elements are of the stadium or whatever. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see how these different things change.
And I feel for the city of Oakland.
Oh my God!
I feel for the city of Oakland. Imagine
they haven't been through enough.
Man, like imagine having a championship dynasty like you had there leave for San Francisco, and then you have your beloved Raiders leave within that same area because they were pretty much next door neighbors. They leave, and then your other next door neighbor in the A's is getting ready to pack up, and the writing was on the wall with them last year when they started giving up players such as Matt Chapman and, Santos and all those guys that were key cognizant in their runs in the AL West. I mean, man, that's tough. I understand that they got a lot of things going on economically there that have to get resolved and fixed, but man, like Oakland was one of the booming sports markets in the early 2000s, and even if you go back into the early 90s and the 80s with the Tony La Russa led A's and the Bash brothers and Mark McGwire and Jose Canseco, and to see what's happened, man, that's sad, because those fans, when they really are winning, they love that team, and they love all their teams out there.
Yeah, and you say that too, and it's completely different from the Tampa side. And Miles is right that obviously it's one of those things where it's easier to keep a team somewhere when they're winning, especially like Tampa Bay. But there's no fan base there. Like it just really there really isn't. Like there's and in Oakland there's real fans that go out. It's just the stadium's not very inviting. And that's just the way it is. Like you wish that they could just build a new stadium and have that save them. But even then, I don't think, especially right now with Oakland, I don't think that at this point it's going to save them. So, hey, you never know, and this stuff takes time. So, hopefully, some positive stuff happens with those teams to where at least one of them gets a stay. But and also besides like Nashville and Salt Lake City, they haven't talked about Montreal having a team. So, because that'd be cool.
I think that's possible.
Yeah,
I think that's very possible because when you bring up the Rays have actually been flirting with Montreal.
Yeah, I know.
I think at one point in time they were thinking about moving some of their home games to Montreal.
So weird.
And it's a beautiful city. I don't understand why the Expos were never able to work there, but then again, they were never willing to build a new stadium.
Yeah,
and I think that's where the talk stalled. And as a result, you saw Montreal end up in Washington, and it's hard to believe that's been almost 20 years ago, man. It's hard for me, makes me feel old because I was 12 years old when that happened. And I remember it vividly because the Expos were playing their games in Puerto Rico.
That's crazy.
Towards the back end.
Man, I hope so because when they've played games in Montreal or they've showed the crowds in Montreal, that you can tell they love baseball there. And and for some people that have never seen that before, they might not believe. They'd be like, Montreal, Canada hockey? Nah, dude. Like you have to see some of these crowds. And not only that, but I can only imagine like some Jays in Montreal game, like some Toronto Blue Jays games, like in Montreal games, if they end up coming back and they play that, I think that'd be badass. So hopefully that something like that happens. But I think that's a good place to wrap up episode 46 of the At Bat Podcast. I want to thank Miles Porter for coming on. I want to thank Gabe Wilkins. Of course, you can watch Gabe Wilkins talk about all the NBA playoff stuff on Open Run. As well. There's so many games coming up at the playing round, and all that. So hopefully everyone is enjoying that. So for Saul Rodriguez, Gabe Wilkins, Miles Porter for At Bat Podcast, we'll see you next week.